Welcome back, my dear student friends. In the last two videos of today, we studied two important concepts. In the first video, we studied convolution properties, theoretical concepts. That is, we studied uh, the commutative property, distributive property, and associative property of convolution operation, both for continuous time and discrete time systems. In the second video, we extended the study and we saw how to determine the three vital properties of a system, that is memory, causality, and stability, using impulse response representation of a LTI system, both discrete time and continuous time. In the next two videos, we will be applying those techniques what we studied into problem solutions. In this presentation, we will first focus only on convolution properties and also give introduction to application of impulse response in determining memory, causality, and uh, stability property. So I'll be solving 4 to 5 problems in convolution property and it's a discussion about an important formula, geometric series formula. Then one problem I'll be solving on impulse response usage in determination of uh, memory property and causal property and stability property. Then in the next video, I'll be solving more problems on the second half of the discussion. So to start with, let us start with the convolution properties. The first going to take up is this. Just just read the sentence. Uh, Consider the interconnection of a LTI system shown in figure below. Express the overall impulse response. You have to find overall impulse response h of n in terms of h1 of n, h2 of n, and h3 of n, and h4 of n, and h5 of n. That means in this major system, there are 5 subsystems, and all these subsystems are linear and time invariant. In fact, this is a discrete system because you can see the notation of the impulse response h of n, and it's a complex connection of subsystems which are all LTI in property, and therefore individual subsystems are presented by the individual impulse responses, and you have to find overall impulse response h of n in terms of h1, h2, h3, h4, and h5. How to start? Okay, now you have a look at the problem. See, there are 5 blocks. You go to the innermost block where you can start simplifying the system. So what I do is, if I want to handle h1, h5, I can't handle first. h2 also I can handle. I think I can handle these two first. They are in the cascade form, isn't it? They are the cascade form. I can represent a single system in that cascade, in the cascade form. Uh, that is by using uh, impulse responses in cascade. I know that whenever two impulse responses are in cascade, the overall impulse response is convolution between them. That is, in this case, it is h3 of n, h3 of n, convolution, h4 of n. I can replace this block by this single block, isn't it? This single block. That single block and this block are in parallel, isn't it? They're in parallel. So they're in parallel, but you can see here in the summing node, no, there is plus sign written here. In the upper there is a plus sign. In the lower there is a minus sign. That means now it is a subtractive mixing. It is subtraction. You have to, instead of adding the two blocks, you have to subtract. That is h3 of sorry, it is h2 of n minus this. So therefore it is, so I can replace this entire thing, no, this entire thing I can replace by this h2 of n minus this. So this is what I do. See how I solve this problem step by step. Let us go to the first step. What I do is, first of all, I'll take care of these two, h3 of n, h4 of n. I'll connect as a single block by cascading, that is by using this formula, that is convolution. When the blocks are in cascade, no, the overall impulse response is the convolution between them. As you can see in the first step 1, see the block. See what I did here is See, I actually, okay, I these two blocks, no, I replaced like this. See, I replaced these two like this because by using the cascade. Now I'll combine this and this. I'll combine this and this. I'll combine this and this. Okay, the next step. They are in parallel actually, but they are not sum now because this sign is minus sign. See, this is plus sign. This is a summing block, summing node. But you have to invert it. This output is inverted, then added. That means it is subtracted. That is h2 of n, h2 of n minus whatever here. That is this, this will come here. Then that thing is in convolution with this whole thing now becomes this whole thing whatever is in cascade with this. See, this cascade with this. That means this is h1 of n, h1 of n. Then now this much, no, this much is replaced by this impulse response, whole thing, this whole thing. Okay, now that is in parallel with because that is added to, output is added to this h1 of phi, no. So this will be added to h phi of n, h phi of n, h phi of n. So this is the overall impulse response, as you can see. See, that's what I'm going to do in the next step. See, next step, what I'm going to do is step 2. See, what I did is I actually clubbed this much, no, this much I told you, no, this much is actually replaced by this. See, this and this much are in cascade. Okay, now these two are parallel, no, so they will sum up. So now I'll write the final equation straight away instead of wasting much time. See, this is what I wrote initially also, same thing. See, this is what I also wrote. So it's very simple step actually. If you, one thing you should know is that whenever the blocks are in cascade, the overall impulse response is convolution between them. Whenever blocks are in parallel form, it is either sum or difference depending on the sign. If both are positive, then it is a sum. If one of them is negative, then it is a subtraction. If both are negative, again it is a sum. It is a minus of something. Otherwise, either it will be plus minus or plus plus most of the time. So that's all you have to consider. And also you have to start the innermost always. Innermost you have to start. You cannot start simplifying h1 to h3 and h5 to h3 like that. You have to start with this innermost, then you should go outward, inside out. It is called as inside out. You have to start from inside, then go out towards the final peripheral systems. Let us solve some more problems. Yeah, this problem. Again the same, it's a repetition of the previous only the system is different. Once again there are 5 subblocks. Each subblocks are represented by impulse response because each of the subblocks are linear and time invariant. Now you have to find out for this entire system, no, for this entire system you have to find what is h of n. For the entire system, what is overall impulse response in terms of h1, h2, h3, h4, h5. Okay, now how will you start in this case? Yeah, now what you can do is these things. Okay, now with this you can club. So this will be h1 convolution h2 because they're in cascade. Sorry, 2, this is h2. Then this, if you see, no, again you can club these two because they're in parallel form and both are plus, no, that means they are added. Now this block can be represented by, this block is replaced by h2 plus h3. Now this is one block, and this is other block, and they are in subtraction. See, now this output and this final output, no, they are actually in difference form. That means I can write like this: h1 convolution h2 minus h2 plus h3. H3. So this I'll put in a bracket because plus and minus have equal same or similar priority, no? So I'll put it like this. So this is what I get. So this is one block now. This is one block. This is one block. That is, this much is one block now. See, this much is one block. That is in cascade with the H5. See, this entire block, which is nothing but this, is cascaded the H5. So that means whatever into, because they are in cascade, so you have to convolve them, no? So this block convolved with the H5. See, H5, H5, okay, H5 of n. This is what I get. So this is the overall impulse response. Overall impulse response H of n. Simple, no? Very simple. So I clubbed these two first, then these two first, then this row and this row I added or subtracted rather because of minus sign. Then I convolved with H5 to get the overall response. All these writings just to clear the way for the display of the result. Okay. Remaining let be there. So okay, see this is what the answer is. See over here. H1 of 5, H1, H4 convolution, H2, H3 sum difference, then convolution. This is what we expected, no? Same is the answer. Same is the answer. You can write sub individual these diagrams you can fill. It's not shown here purposefully for you to simplify this. So by simplifying all this, so what you can do here is you can next block you can show like this. This is H1, I won't write T, so it's a continuous time, no? So it is convolution H2, so here it is H2 plus H3 because they are parallel, no? Therefore plus. See the difference, it is plus here because they are parallel, it is convolution here because they are in cascade. So they are actually added. This is the next block. They are rather subtracted, not added, subtracted. So plus, this is the plus sign here, this is the minus sign here, no? This is in actually with another block. Okay, yeah, this is the next step. Then you join these two, so this become like this. After joining this become like this. This is one block, this will be another block. This is next diagram you have to draw. Okay, so this will come here. So this all thing, no, will come here like this. That's how you have to replace. Then write this. Don't write straight away, write the answer. Okay, you show these two intermediate blocks, then write the final answer. Okay, that's how you have to proceed. Let us go for the next problem. Sorry, everything gone. I'm sorry. See that something happened in my pointer, everything gone. But anyway, see what I was doing was like this only. No, see, I was actually adding. See, this is I got this, correct. Then I convolved. I mean, I convolved because this is a cascade. These are in cascade. Cascade actually. Cascade means convolution. See, this is what they have done. Convolution they have done. Then this whole thing will be added. No, see, will be added. See, addition. First sum, then cascade, then again sum. So this is what I was expecting, and I was doing like that only. But it something happened. Screen went. Okay, whatever. This is the answer. This is how we have to solve. Now one more problem like that. Let us see. Once again here. So what you do is because bracket is given, no, in this also h1 of t is equal to h of t is equal to h1 of t convolution all these impulse responses h2 h3 h4 in a sum form. See, their addition, so that means parallel. Okay, h2 of t, h3 of t, h4 of t, all that to be added, isn't it? That means first, because bracket is given, give the highest priority. If bracket is not given, then what? Suppose if bracket is not given, this floor bracket is not given, that means you have to find this block first. Okay, You have to find this block first. H1 of t convolution, H2 of t do first. Unnecessary thing. Suppose if brackets were not given, it is given simply H1 of t convolution H2 of t plus H3 of t plus H4 of t. Bracket is missing. Suppose in that case, first you have to do this. You have to make first. In that case, if the bracket is not given, now we cannot do that. Then add. Now because this bracket is given, do this first. That is this operation you do first because of bracket. Then convert that with H1 of t. That's what you are going to do now. See. First they have added all things. They got the addition. This is the what they did. Okay, they did like this. See, this is sum. Then this one is this. The beginning convolution. Then what? This is the total block convolution. I mean convolution with the because cascade connection. Okay. Similarly, so here what you have to do in this case. Because there is no bracket at all. See, H1 of t is equal to H1 of t convolution H2 of t plus H3 of t convolution H4 of t. No bracket at all. See, no bracket. So priority you have to see. So now there are two convolutions. No, both are to be on same priority. What you have to do is you combine these two first. You connect these two in cascade. That is this and this are in cascade. That is one is this, other one is this. They are in cascade. Okay, they are in cascade. Then these two are in cascade because once again convolutions are no. So one more block cascade. This is cascade with the H4. This is H3. This is H4. They are to be added. See, the sum is there no. So they should be added. That means there is a adding node, summing node. So here one arrow, here another arrow, and put plus in both arrows because sum no. There is no subtraction. Then this is the output y of t. Y. Output. So here you just join this full. Then this is the input. This is the input x. This is the input. This is H1. This is H2. This is H3, and this is H4. That's what you're going to get. See, same thing. H1, H2, H3, H4. Because of the priority. There is no bracket means highest priority for the convolution always. Then next plus or minus. I hope you understood the block diagram reduction as well as block formation depending on the problem in hand. Now I hope you can answer the assignment. If I give in the end, you can try a few more in the assignment form. Okay, now let us move on to the next set of problems where you will be finding property of the system. That is, for the given system, you are finding whether system has a memory, system is causal or stable. You will be given impulse response. Then based upon, you have to find out the stability, memory and causality. As I explained in my first and second video, I think, second video, finding causality and memory is only easy because you should just observe the graph. Whenever equation is given, plot the graph, try to plot the graph, then see whether the graph is extending after 0 or coming before 0. That is for memory, the graph should not extend beyond 0 or start before 0. For causality, the graph should not start before 0. So just by observing the impulse response graph, no, you can tell. But for finding stability, you have to sometimes find little more calculation. For that calculation purpose, the formulas we are going to discuss now are much useful. That is, they are called geometric series formulas. To see now one by one some of the important geometric series formulas you should use. These formulas you may be studied in maths, but still for our reference I'll once again recall here. And whenever a series of numbers are to be added in either in a geometric progression, so you have to make use of these formulas. The first formula you frequently use is this: summation of alpha to the power of n, where n ranging from 0 to n, where n is a real number. Alpha, some constant to the power of n variable, n ranging from 0 to n. If you add, if you want to add, that is, you have to add alpha to the power of 0, 0 plus alpha to the power of 1 plus alpha to the power of 2, etc., 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 up to alpha to the power of n. Suppose you want to add alpha to the power of capital N, upper limit. alpha to the power of 0, alpha to the 1, alpha 2, all are to be added. Then what is the final sum? Final sum is nothing but this formula. See the formula of final sum. It is always 1 minus alpha to the power of n plus 1. So remember, very important formula. You have to use. You will be using it many times in future, even in other modules. This is very important. It is ratio of 1 minus alpha to the upper limit plus 1. So it is actually 1 minus alpha, that constant, to the power of n plus 1. N plus 1 means n is upper limit plus 1, divided by 1 minus alpha. Remember this, very easy formula it is. That is 1 minus alpha to the power of n plus 1 upper limit plus 1 divided by 1 minus alpha. This is the final answer. If alpha is not equal to 1, if alpha is anything either greater than 1 or less than 1, this formula holds good. If sum starts from 0. If alpha equal to 1, suppose alpha is 1, 1 to the power of anything is 1 itself, no? You are adding 1, n plus 1 number of times. Suppose n is alpha, alpha is 1, and 1 to the power of n, 1 to the power of anything is that number itself. Especially 1 to the power of 1 is where n is an integer, that number itself, no? So you're adding 1 to itself n plus 1 number of times. So final answer will be n plus 1. So if this alpha is not equal to 1, then this is the final answer, this expression. If alpha equal to 1, the final answer is n plus 1. That is upper limit plus 1. So this formula is of very useful for you. Now you have to remember this. Now suppose if upper limit is infinity, if it is an infinite series, geometrically increasing, varying infinite series, start from 0, ends at infinity, what is the answer? Suppose this formula, same formula, alpha to the power of n, same thing, where n ranging from 0 to infinity, then it is equal to 1 by 1 minus alpha, provided modulus of alpha is less than 1. That means if alpha is a fraction, either a positive fraction or negative fraction, that is value alpha between alpha greater than minus 1 but less than 1. If alpha is a fraction, I can either write like this, alpha greater than minus 1 or less than 1, or mod of alpha less than 1. They are same. The meaning of these two expressions are same. If alpha is a negative or positive fraction, then this is the final answer, 1 by 1 minus alpha. Suppose alpha is half, 0.5. Alpha is 0.5, half. Then this is the converging series, not diverging, converging. This series converges. To what value it converges? In this case, it is 1 by 1 minus half. 1 by 1 minus half. Alpha is half. Suppose if alpha is half, 1 by 1 minus half. What is 1 minus half? It is half. 1 by half. 1 by half is 2. So this sum converges to 2. Suppose alpha is 0.5. If n tends to infinity, final answer will be 2. This is very important result. Okay, you also require this kind of formulas for the future discussion. One more formula is there. Sometimes rare case, same formula, n into alpha to the power of n. So n into alpha to the power of n, where n ranging from 0 to summation of n into alpha to the power of n ranging from 0 to alpha. So final answer is alpha divided by 1 minus alpha whole square, provided alpha is a fraction, either positive fraction or negative fraction, then only this formula applies. If this condition is not satisfied, this formula won't apply, won't you have to go for some other formula. But if alpha is a positive or negative fraction, if mod of alpha is less than 1, the n into alpha to the power of n, summation of n ranging from 0 to infinity, is nothing but alpha by 1 minus alpha square. So these three formulas you keep in mind. It will be of helpful for all our future problem solution in this particular chapter. Okay, now I'll solve one problem in this video related to finding the property of the system, that is finding causality, memory and stability property of the system. And then remaining problem I'll solve in the next video, because I want to restrict this video to half an hour. So I'm planning that way. So next video I'll make one more video for half an hour, which is again for problems of remaining types. So one problem I will solve now. Just go to the next screen. See the problem statement. Determine whether a discrete time LTI system characterized by the impulse response h of n half to the power of n u of n is a stable, causal, memoryless. This sentence is not properly formed. It is taken from textbook. The English grammar is not proper, but whatever, for the given system, for this given system, you have to find whether this system, that is the impulse response of a particular system, has been given here. Some system whose output will look like this when you give an impulse. That is, we don't know what system it is, but it was an LTI system, discrete time LTI system. When I give the impulse, the output behaved like this, impulse response. For this system, you have to find whether the system is stable, whether the system is causal, or whether the system is memoryless. How to apply the concept we studied in previous video to find these three properties for the system whose impulse response is as given in this particular equation. Let us go for the solution. Okay, now given system is h of n is equal to half to the power of n into u of n. See, whenever possible, you try to picturize. Okay, this is the equation given. Using your basic signals knowledge, system knowledge or whatever, you try to draw the graph of that. Okay, now what is this actually? See, this is nothing but, according to me, it is a falling exponential, for a discrete time exponential falling, starting at n is equal to 0. Why? Because, see, half to the power of n into u of n. Suppose if this is not given, half u of n is not given, only it is given as half to the power of n. What would have been the signal? The signal would have been, for example, if I want to plot the signal, half to the power of n, if I want to plot for all the values of n, if I want to plot, it's a discrete signal, n can be only integer. This is not z, it is 2, half to the power of n. Okay, n is equal to 0, n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, all integer values only I have to take because it is a discrete signal, n is equal to minus 1, n is equal to minus 2. So these values I'll take, because now in this case, because I'm not considering u of n, I'm thinking u of n is not there, I'm getting only half to the power of n, this signal. This signal is actually infinite duration signal. The signal will last forever. Okay, the signal starts at minus infinity, stops at plus infinity. But because in the actual system u of n is there, it is only right sided. But in this case, now let us try to plot only this much, half to the power of n. So n is equal to 0. If I put n is equal to 0, half to the power of 0 is 1. This is the first value. Okay, at 1. Okay, 1. Right, yeah. Half to the power of 1. That is, half to the power of 1 is half. This is 1 actually. This value is 1. This next sample is half. The value is half. Like that, when I put n is equal to 2, half to the power of 2, it is 1 by 4. 1 by 4 means here it is half of this. What is 1 by 4? Half of half. So value half. That means as n increases, the signal value keeps on decreasing. That's why I called it is falling exponential. It is falling exponential. If I put n is equal to 3, it will be 1 by 8. If I put n is equal to 4, it will be 1 by 16. The value keeps on decreasing. When n becomes infinity, the signal will be 0. Now, because this is both sided, because u of n is not considered, I am not considering u of n now, okay, it is both sided. Let us consider other side of the value also, signal also. That is, if I put n is equal to minus 1. Suppose if I put n is equal to minus 1, what is the signal value? N is equal to minus 1. N is equal to minus 1 means, so it is 1 divided by 2 to the power of minus 1. 2 to the power of minus 1 is half, isn't it? That is 1 by half. 1 by half. So nothing but 2. So this signal is 2. At minus 1, it is 2. This is 2. See, it is always doubling. See, if I go leftward, 1 by 4, half, 1, 2. So next value, if I put n is equal to minus 2, definitely the value is 4. The value is 4. If I put n is equal to minus 3, at minus 3, the value is 8. The value is 8. It keeps on increasing. See, its value will be 8. So like that, if I put n is equal to minus 4, minus 5 up to minus infinity, the value keep on increasing. So that means from infinity, the value keep on decreasing. See, it is decreasing like this. It is a falling exponential, both sided. Now for this, if I multiply with the u of n, what is u of n? See, I'm actually till now I was discussing only about this, okay, half to the power of n. Now, to get the overall h of n, in this case, I have to multiply with the u of n. U of n is what? U of n is multiplying this signal with the 1, 1, 1. All these values are 1. That is at n is equal to 0, n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3. All these values are 1. For anything less than n, it is 0. The values are 0, 0, 0, 0. Everywhere it is 0. Now if I multiply these two signal, what is the resultant? Resultant is one-sided falling exponential. All the values to the left of n is equal to 0, no? All the values to the left of n is equal to 0. All the values to the left of n is equal to 0 become 0. Become 0. In the actual signal, it becomes 0. That means half to the, now I am plotting this signal, okay. Half to the power of n into u of n. I am trying to plot this signal now. There is a given signal, given system into u of n. This I am plotting now, okay. I am plotting this now. So therefore all the values are 0 left side, because 0 into anything is 0. Only at n is equal to 0, and after that the output starts. So it is 1 into 1, that is 1. 1 into 1 is 1. This value is 1. So 1 into half, this is half. 1 into 1 by 4, it is 1 by 4. 1 into 1 by 8, it is 1 by 8, like that. So it is again a falling exponential, but one-sided. So that means the given system is a falling exponential which is one-sided. The left-sided values are 0. The signal is one-sided. Its value at the origin is 1 and all other values are decreasing. When n becomes infinity, the value of the signal becomes 0. It is a falling exponential. So that is the graph of the given signal. The graph of the given signal is, I'll draw it once again, 1, half, 1 by 4, 1 by 8, 1 by 16, and so on. And all the left-sided values are 0, 0, and only 0. It's only one-sided. This is the graph of the given impulse response. Now this you have to keep in mind, and then therefore you can easily find the stability property, causality property, and memoryless property as in the previous. Let us see the answer. It's how to answer this particular problem. Let us remove all these scratches. Okay, yeah, let these many, okay, I can manage with this. Okay, see, now this is the given system. Okay, now we know that discrete time LTI system is stable only if its impulse response is absolutely summable. That is this formula. That is, a system is said to be stable if I add all the values of the impulse. That is, add all the values of the impulse response. In case of discrete time impulse response, if I add all the values of impulse response, if I add all, I showed the values, no, the graph. If I add all values, it should be finite. That is, the given impulse response must be absolutely summable. How to find whether the given response is, yes, it is, because I saw, no, graph you saw, no, it was decreasing value, no. That means if I add all the values, the total value sum will be finite. But how to find the value? For that, let us use this formula. See, this formula let us make use of. Here actually in the given problem, no, in the given problem, see, alpha is this. This is only once to tell it is a one-sided signal. U of n is 1, no, it is 1. For n greater than 0, this value is 1, and the value is 0 for n greater than or equal to, okay. For n less than 0, u of n is 1 equal to 1 for n greater than 0 or equal to 0 for n less than 0. That means this is only it will tell it is one-sided, no. So half to the power of n is the actual signal into u of n, one-sided. So now if I apply this formula here, alpha is half, isn't it? Now the formula is half to the power of n, 0 to infinity. So 0 to infinity because it is only one-sided. So let us apply this formula, okay, to find this. See, what I get is this. See, I applied this formula. Now h of k in the place of h of n, h of n is there. So half to the power of k I wrote. In the place of n I am writing k. Wherever n is there I will write k. And limit is 0 to infinity. Why? Because See, now for 0 to infinity only u of n is 1. For less than 0, u of n is 0. Therefore, I am taking only limit 0 to infinity. Actual limit is minus infinity to plus infinity. No? The limit becomes 0 to infinity because in the given system, it is only one-sided. See, it is only one-sided. For all the value less than 0, h of n is 0. Therefore, 0 to infinity. That means I have to apply this formula. If I apply this formula, answer is because alpha is less than 1. See, because alpha is less than 1, mod of alpha less than 1, this formula can be applied 1 by 1 minus alpha, 1 by 1 minus 2. So, it is 2 absolutely summable. Impulse response is absolutely summable, no? That is why the given system is stable. The given system is stable. What about the other two properties? Yeah, other property means, what about the causal property? For causal property, I told you, no, you plot the impulse response. Impulse response was like this. Impulse response was, this was one value, this was another value, this was going on decreasing, no, like this, it was going on decreasing. This was 1, this was half, this was 1 by 4, like it was. So value before that, all values were 0, 0, 0, correct, isn't it? This was actually impulse response of the system, given graph versus n. You can see the condition for causal. A system is causal if h of n is 0 for n less than 0. That is, the system impulse response should start at n is equal to 0. If it starts at n is equal to 0, not before that, the system is causal. See the condition here. If h of n is 0 for n less than 0, n less than 0 means all these values. See all these values. For all these values, h of n is 0. So h of n is 0. Given system is 0 for n less than 0. Therefore, this system is causal. This system is causal because impulse response starts only at 0, not before that. Therefore, system is non-anticipatory or causal. Then what about the memory property? What about the memory property of the system? For memory property, see the condition is h of n should be 0 for n not equal to 0. Then only system is memoryless. If the system has to be memoryless, the impulse response should be instantaneous, only at the origin. All other values should have been 0. All other values should have been 0. Then the system doesn't have memory. But in this case, what? Does this condition satisfied? So in this case, you can see even at n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, the signal value is present, isn't it? The value may become 0 when n becomes infinity. But till that time, the n values are there. Now impulse response means you applied one impulse at the origin, but output kept on happening even after origin. That means h of n is not equal to 0. H of n is not equal to 0 for n not equal to 0. N not equal to 0 means all these values, it is not equal to 0. That means this is not memoryless. System has memory. System has memory. That means, see, since the given system h of n half to the power of n is not equal to 0 for n not equal to 0, see whatever you discussed here, the system is not memoryless. Not memoryless means system has memory. The system is a memory system. If it is memoryless, then there would have been only one sample at the output. Impulse response would have been only single impulse. But because it is not that condition, this system is having memory. So given system is stable, given system is causal, and given system has memory. Let us solve more problems in the next video. Please come over to next video, continuation of this, where I will solve few more problems. Let us say goodbye now. I hope you will take the break and come back to class number 4 today or next video of today's class. Thank you.